been surfing for over 10 years, and this is still the most bizarre story that I've experienced. My buddy Kyle and I always love to surf at night. It's a different kind of rush than doing it during the day. Kyle and I drove my truck about an hour away to some beach in Virginia. It was well after midnight when we got there. I parked my truck close to the water, facing the headlights out into the ocean so that we could have some visibility. We get out of the truck and jump right into the water with our boards. The waves were okay. It was actually pretty calm that night. One thing that freaks me out is the sharks. The water is so black at night, it would almost be impossible to see one coming until it was too late. Anyway, we had been surfing for about a half an hour when we both heard a blood-curdling scream. We both looked at each other, alert and nervous. The scream sounded like it was only a few feet away. We scanned the water, trying to see if someone was drowning or hurt. We heard the scream again, this time even closer. It was the scream of a girl. We were frantically calling out and searching the dark ocean on our boards when Kyle told me to look next to him. Floating 2 feet away from him was the bobbing head of a girl. Her mouth was wide open, like it was stuck in a permanent scream. Her hair was matted with all kinds of seaweed and debris. She looked like she'd been dead and rotting for God only knows how long, but her eyes were locked on both of us. She gave us a big smile and then went under the water. Mind you, we were only about 30 yards out into the ocean at this point, and it was like 1 a.m. We both didn't hesitate, and we paddled as fast as we could back to the shore, terrified and unsure of what we just saw. The next day, we grabbed some breakfast at a local diner. We were talking with the waitress about our experience last night, and she shed some unsettling news on us. Apparently, the beach Kyle and I surfed at was haunted by a girl named Tabitha. She supposedly drowned 15 years ago, but her body was never found. Many people reported seeing her body in the water late at night, screaming in agony at her unresolved death. I'm not someone who believes in ghosts and stuff like that. I believe that when you die, and your soul leaves this earth. But that night, Kyle and I definitely heard the screams and saw a girl's head bobbing in the water. It was as real as could be. And I still tell this story to all my other surfing buddies, but none of them believe me. They don't have to, I don't care. But one thing is for sure, Kyle and I never went surfing at that beach again. This story is tragic but true. I'm a 16-year-old female and lived in a small beach town on the coast of New Jersey when this happened. I took surfing lessons with a girl named Taylor. We'd become pretty close friends while surfing together. But last summer, Taylor suddenly went missing. The town and police both thought she drowned while surfing and all but gave up on finding her. They figured the current took her out and that she'd be fish food by now. Harsh, but that's how it goes. I continued to take my surfing lessons just to stay preoccupied from the shock, and because our instructor Mike was a good teacher. Anyway, about a week after the police had given up on searching for Taylor, Mike, I, and the rest of the surfing class were out in the water early in the morning. The waves were always best at this time. I was straddling my surfboard, listening to Mike explain what a bottom turn was, when I felt something brush up against my leg. My mind immediately went to a shark, and I started frantically looking around. But what I saw was even worse. Floating face up was Taylor. She was bloated and all purple. I screamed and threw up. The lifeguards on duty and police came out into the water and collected her body. But here's where it gets worse. Police brought Taylor's body back to their lab to figure out how she died. They were running tests on her when they found some kind of foreign DNA inside her privates. The DNA turned out to be a match with someone in the system. It was my surfing instructor, Mike. Turns out, he was sleeping with Taylor on the side. Taylor did not want to continue the relationship, but Mike did. Taylor threatened to tell everyone how he was seeing an underage girl, and Mike decided he had to kill her to shut her up. He admitted to all of this and is doing life in prison with no chance of parole. Mike was 39 and Taylor was 16. He was a predator and a murderer. And it still breaks my heart to this day, finding my friend dead like that. I still have nightmares of her bloated and dead face floating in the water. And I hope she's resting in peace, and I hope all the days for Mike on Earth are filled with misery. My friends and I go surfing almost every day. This story happened during the summer break in 2019, and for context, I'm an 18-year-old female living in Florida. My friends and I would surf just about every morning. In our town, that was about all you could do. We were out surfing one day and went to paddle back to shore to take a water break and check our cell phones. When we got to our towels with our stuff on them, I noticed that my flip-flops were missing. I tried to remember if I had cum in them, but I'm almost positive that I did. Weird. The next day, we were out surfing again and we paddle in to take a break. We get to our stuff, and now I notice that my pink towel is missing. I voice this concern to my friends, and they say maybe someone took it by accident. It was a pretty crowded beach. I thought that could be true, but 2 days in a row with something missing is a bit strange, and I felt like someone was stealing. It was the next day, and I was determined to catch whoever was taking my stuff. We were out surfing in the water, and I kept surveying the beach to see if I could catch whoever was in the act. There were no waves for a few minutes. It was calm, and that's when I noticed something. Standing right behind a lifeguard stand was a man. From the distance, I couldn't be too sure, but he looked to be over 40, and he was wearing black pants and a white button-down shirt. Very odd for 85-degree weather. But there was something even more odd. I noticed that he had a camera or cell phone out facing my direction, kind of like he was taking pictures. I pointed this out to my friends and they all saw him. We started yelling from the water to stop and started to paddle into shore. By the time we got onto land, the man was gone, but thankfully, none of my stuff was missing. I wish this is where the story would have ended. Later that night, there was a loud knock at my front door. I live with my parents, so my dad was the one who went to answer it, being that it was almost midnight. He called my name from my room to come down. My dad was standing on our front porch, pointing at the ground. In a wicker basket were my missing flip-flops, my missing beach towel, and hundreds of Polaroid photos stuffed in an envelope of me surfing on the beach. The photos were taken from a distance and without me noticing. Some were even of me laying on the beach, relaxing and sleeping with my friends. I was extremely uncomfortable. I knew whoever that man was on the beach was responsible for this. That's when I saw an attached note on the bottom of my flip-flops. It said, I won't be needing these precious items anymore. I filed a report at the police station the next morning for stalking and theft, but nothing ever came of it. I was on edge for the rest of the summer because obviously this stalker knew where I surfed and where I lived. Thankfully, nothing has happened since then, and my friends are always with me, so something like this won't happen again in the future. At least that's what I hope. It was just a very bizarre situation, and I can only imagine what that man was doing with my stuff and why he was taking my pictures. I'm just glad I can now surf in peace.